All right. There's something wrong with Joe again. So Joe Biden was on The View, and his wife basically took over the interview. And look, this is, I really hate this kind of stuff because, and look, I have my criticism of Joe Biden, but the man's not there anymore. He's not there anymore.
Anyway,
of course.
You can't be too out there.
Yeah.
Mr. President, since you left office, there have been a number of books that have come out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources, that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities. In the final year of your presidency, what is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
they are wrong. There's nothing to sustain.
Are they wrong? I don't know, Matt. Did you pay attention to the 2024 election cycle? Because I know I did.
I think he's about to tell us, Kit, why they were so wrong about him. I mean, make the case for yourself, Joe. Make the case.
Let's hear it.
In your cognitive abilities, in the final year of your presidency, what is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. Number one. Number two, think of what we're left with. We're left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And one of the things and
Alyssa, one of the things I think.
And right here is where Jill takes over, Matt. Right here is where Jill takes over. We see that happening right here before us. Oh, God. Hang on. Wait for this.
Is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us. And they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. I mean, he'd get up, he'd put in a full day, and then at night I'd be in bed, reading my book, and he was still on the phone reading his briefings, just working with staff. I mean, it was nonstop. It's the White House. Being president is not like a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a life that you live. You live it 24 hours a day. That phone can ring at 11 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning.
Is he going to sleep? Joe, wake up. Wake up, Joe.
It's constant. You never leave it. And Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president. And if you look at things today, give me Joe Biden anytime. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And nothing fundamentally changed. Nothing fundamentally changed at all. And right here, too. Hold on. One other thing here, too, because, Matt, I know we're about to unleash on these people.
So why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
No. I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America. But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this, she's that. I mean, it really, I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country, and a woman of mixed race.
Yeah.
And
so why?
So I hope you heard that. I hope everybody heard that. All right. Because that was pretty funny. Joe Biden says he wasn't surprised that Kamala Harris lost the election. Wasn't surprised. He didn't want to say the real thing, as that is she was a terrible candidate and their administration didn't even work together. They hated each other. They hated each other. They hated each other. They hated each other. They hated each other, man. So, I mean, guys, gals, Matt, how do you feel, Matt? Because I'm about to go on a rant, but I want you to shoot first. You're your special guest co-host, man.
Man, I was, first of all, in that first clip, I was waiting for them to turn to the camera and say, and live from New York, it's Saturday night. because they're all those women sitting there. They're caricatures of themselves at this point. I mean, I know you've covered it with every time they outdo themselves every time. And this is an example. All the women sitting around there, because this is a big day. Did you see how they got every one of them on? That was a large group of cackling hens, right? You had them all there at the same time.
Now you be nice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So they know what their job is. They're not that stupid. They're not that stupid. They're a little dumb, but they're not. They know that their job today, when they got the email, their job is to show up, sit at that table, and do everything you can to do damage control for the Democratic establishment party. And that's the point. That's exactly what their job was. Sit there and pretend that this guy hasn't lost his effing mind, which he has. And it's so obvious as he's talking. I mean, he says, think of what we were left with. It's like, so your mind's not even in right now. Your mind is back at 2019, where, by the way, your decline started in 2019, not the last year. So even the premise of the question was wrong. It wasn't the last year. It was just so obvious the last year, but it started in 2019. So that's where his mind started. To think what we were left with. We were left with an insurrection. We were left with a pandemic. And we're like, that's not the question. That's not what are you even talking about? And then, of course, Joe Biden having to tell us what her job was as 24 hours being the actual president, because your husband was busy slobbering ice cream out of his side of his mouth. So she told us what her life was like, having to take emails and whatever she needed to do while he was completely comatose. That's what I got from it. And then that follow-up, this notion, Kit, that again, the job of the view of these women are to show up to work and just hit it over the head of their audience, of the American people, that the only reason Trump's in office is because half the country are racist and sexist. That's the spin. That's their job. That's what they get the paycheck to do. And it might have worked on half of their viewers. In other words, 5 people might have fallen for it. So there you go. That job well done. Take your paycheck, go cash it in. Job well done, ladies.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to pull up something else here too. You know, when you have a president like Joe Biden, you know, his mental illness, or his mental decline was there for everybody to see firsthand. I mean, this is a president who not only failed miserably in everything that his administration was doing, but there was this big secret and cover up. You know, I mentioned before the man was on a CPAP machine to help him sleep at night. There's been reports about him having really bad days in which no one could speak to him. And who was in charge? Who was running this? Who was in charge of the country these last 4 years? I mean, was it Kamala? Was it Jill? Was it everybody? Was everybody just holding Joe Biden's hand as his brain was leaving him, as his mind was leaving him? I mean, there has to be a point to where all this has to be revealed. All of it has to be exposed. I find it fascinating that this entire 4 years, we had no clue who was running the country. And yet, when you do bring it up, or if you did bring it up, you were vilified, you were censored, you were suppressed, you were called a conspiracy theorist. But now here it is before all of us, and we saw it happen during the debates between Trump and Biden.
Yeah, look, we should know by now who runs our country. It doesn't matter if it's Biden in the driver's seat, and I say driver's seat in quotes. It's just that he's just a face of the operation. It doesn't matter if it's Trump as the face of the operation. It doesn't matter if it's Obama or George W. We figured this out at George W. days. We knew. Here's the guy he's the best at saying, yeah, we're going to stick it to the terrorists. Yeah. I mean, he's the best face, but we know that it was people behind the scenes running the show. So it just, who's the puppet in front? That's it. Obama, Trump just happened to be more articulate, as they say, more presentable, more able to put the show on. But, you know, a W or a Biden, their only use is to stare at the camera, make a face, maybe one little soundbite, and then go back to doing nothing except taking orders from the bankers, from the Zionists, from whoever are actually running the country. We know this, and if it's not as clear as day now with Trump, and understanding that he has to check in with his handlers to do anything, we should know this by now. But Biden was the most obvious one. If you don't understand that a demented president doesn't affect the running and the handling of the country, it's business as usual. Even if the guy in your driver's seat is totally comatose. It's business as usual.
Exactly. I agree. And, I would say let this be a lesson, but I think we've seen this get played out throughout history where a nation or an empire is ruled over by a simpleton or a madman or a tyrant. We haven't learned our lesson yet. It's a long, sad history of humanity.